What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another The City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome back to another video guide. And this time we are going to take a look at the latest of Boss Rush, which will be the third Boss Rush event that we have in the global version of the game. So before we do start, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help the channel guys, and I would really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's start this video. Okay guys, so the boss rush is basically consists of 4 different bosses, and we'll be going through each and every one of them in this video. So the first one is how to deal with the Lufenia Orb. This is going to be for the first wave. This starts at 100% HP and you will gain 10 when the target takes brave damage from debuff effects. So this is going to be like poison or sap along those lines. It's not actually the trap itself that you'll be getting the increase in the Lufenia Orb. So things like Sarah's poison, of course Trey has a little bit of that, and Ultimisia is well worth bringing here as well. Now let's quickly move on how the fight works for the first wave. All you have to do really here is just watch out for the ult attacks. It is going to be likely an AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack. Try not to get broken, as well as the bosses do follow up with an HP attack if you do get broken while they have their like red aura around them. And so the first one to do is not get broken. Do not get broken. That is how you're going to deal with this fight. Off-turn damage actually really helps here. It just saves you some turns, like, you know, if you have Furion or traps or anything of that sort, it is going to be very helpful. A tank will also make this fight so much easier, as you do not have to get, you know, you don't have to worry about getting broken. So if you have someone that can like provoke, or in this case I use Gladio, who can defend other characters, and even if they get HP attack, you know, they're not gonna die as soon as they get hit by that, then it is highly recommended. Now moving on to wave 2, how you're going to deal with the Lufenia Orb on this one. This starts at less than 80% and you will get 5 when you heal more than 50% of your HP with an ability. So characters like Paladin Cecil and Y'shtola, and even Aerith, who have a huge amount of bulk healing, can actually help you with this Lufenia Orb. And as for the fight itself, this one is pretty simple. We've faced this boss so many times. Basically, when the tail is up, which you will see, then just prepare for an HP damage. That's all you really have to really worry about here. They can remove their debuff from themselves. That is something I think a lot of the bosses in this case can actually do. But I mean, that's not too surprising, to be completely honest. And so that brings us on how you're going to deal with this fight. All you have to do really is to heal through the HP damage. I mean, the Lufenia Orb already tells you that you really need to heal more than 50% of your HP, so just bring a healer. Again, off-turn damage will obviously be really good, and as well as a tank. And now moving on to the third wave. This one actually doesn't have any Lufenia Orbs, believe it or not, so this is a little bit of respite for you. They can remove their debuffs as well from themselves when they're using charge. You just have to be careful with that, because that is huge damage. Hopefully you get to the point, you know, you don't get to that point, if you know what I mean. They do have a Brave plus HP attack, but it is a single target, so maybe try not to get broken. But even if you do get broken, it doesn't deal that much. At least from my experience, I didn't get one shot by it, so it's not too scary. And so that brings us to how you're gonna deal with this fight. Since a lot of the bosses, which I haven't mentioned actually, cannot be knocked back in this particular boss rush, these two are the only bosses that you can actually use the chase sequence. So if you do bring a chase team, you're gonna be pretty much be golden here. You're gonna save a lot of turns, obviously, because you're doing more HP damage. Again, off-turn damage will be pretty helpful. Again, tank as well, you know, will definitely be helpful in this case as well. But I think if you can bring a chase team during this time, at least for your second team, you know, then you should be golden, and you should be able to beat this fight pretty easily. And finally, this brings us to the last wave, which you will get the Lufenia Orb at the start of the fight. This will increase by 2 when the boss has, or the bosses have, 2 or more debuffs applied to them. So Celeste, Trey, there's a whole bunch of characters. However, there is a caveat to this, which we'll be going through right about now. So the caveat for this is a bit of a weird one. You are encouraged to apply a debuff on the boss in order to increase the Lufenia Orb counter. However, you do get warned at the start of the fight that if you apply 4 or more debuffs, that the bosses will gain a huge buff. So what do you do in this case? Well, let's talk about how this fight is going to work. So basically, if the bosses have 4 or more debuff at certain HP thresholds, they will use Shed Plus instead of just normal Shed. Now, Shed Plus will basically remove all the debuffs that they have, and they will increase their stats permanently, which is very scary because you have to deal with another buff, which is an icon buff from the boss called Sharp Spines, which has 3 levels. Now, each level will have an extra bit of effect added to it. So essentially, it reduces the brave damage they take at level 3. At level 2, they will have reduced HP damage, I believe. It's basically, it just stacks up and it will lower each time you break the boss. But it gets harder to break the boss if they have Shed Plus on top of Sharp Spines already, and not to mention they are double resistance to the melee attack. And so the question is, how are you going to deal with this? Well, you have to limit the amount of debuffs that you apply. You can only apply, well, I would highly recommend only applying 3 debuffs, because in this case you won't have to worry about Shed Plus increasing the overall stats of the boss. All you have to worry about is Sharp Spines. Now, how do you deal with Sharp Spines? Well, honestly, if you have Instant Break, it will help you a lot. But if they don't have Shed Plus, you will still be able to shave those Brave off, even though they have a huge stat boost plus the 50% Brave reduction damage. You will be able to still shave this off. This is very important, but having instant breaks will basically make this fight so much easier. However, there are some cases where you won't be able to break all 3 times and they will get to attack you. So a healer or a reviver is definitely a welcome addition to the team. And so let's move on to the characters that you can bring for this one. There are obviously quite a lot, since you will have to at least use 3 teams in order to get the full amount of rewards. You got Trey, Y'shtola, Ultimisia, Arciela, Firion, Kryle, Aranea, Sarah, Keys, Cloud, Aerith, Celeste, Gladio, and so much more. Now, there is a little thing that I will add here is if you're planning to bring a melee attacker at the last wave, since they are double resistant, if you can have an ice enchant, you can bypass that melee resistance. So things like Celeste, or I believe Onion Knight does this as well. Those are an option if you want to really bring a melee brave attacker. Now, as for the call teams, honestly, I would just rotate whichever you need. So you got Jack, Ramza, Hope, Caius, Cloud, Machina, and you got Gabranth. If you want to be a little bit more defensive or you want to heal, then I suggest bringing Aerith along. She's a good reviver as well. Platin Cecil is another good option to have, especially if you're trying to, if you're gonna get past the first wave and you hit the second wave and you still have a lot of turns, you can save some of your, you can make the Lufenia Orb go up by using call abilities as well. Okay guys, now let's talk about the party compositions. I will be just listing the actual main teams. As I said, the call teams are basically, you're going to be rotating them and you just have to think about whether you want to be offensive or defensive with the cold teams. So the ones that you guys are seeing in this video, I ended up using Gladio, Sarah, and Firen for the first team. The second team, I had Keys, Y'shtola, and Cloud. The third team, Celeste, Trey, and Squall. And the summons I use are Odin, Pandemonium, and then Ifrit. Now the second selection of teams I have for you guys, for the first team, again use Gladio, Sarah, and Squall this time. And then for the second team, you got Celeste, Aerith, and Cloud. In the third team, you got Balthier, Trey, and Y'shtola. As for your summons, you will use Ramuh, Diabolus, and Shiva. Now the last compositions that I have for you guys, for the first team you got Ultimecia, Sarah, and Hope, which is actually a pretty good team for the first wave. The second team you got Cloud, Plat, and Cecil, and then Keys. And the third one is Celeste, Aerith, and then Squall. The summon for this one are going to be Brother, Pandemonium, and Odin. Alright guys, we're finally towards the end of this video. My final thoughts regarding this fight, I think the first and last waves are probably the most dangerous parts in this fight. The first wave, all you really have to really concentrate is not get broken, because they can follow up with an HP attack, which you don't want to happen. The last wave is basically testing if you're paying attention to the text. So I did have some trouble with the last wave initially, but then when I figured out that I only should apply like 3 debuffs and not go any higher than that, then the fight became much more manageable. So overall, a fun little boss rush. I'd say this is nearly hitting the hard theme for me, but I think I'm only giving it that because I didn't really pay attention how much debuffs I should be applying. I was like, I'll just apply all these debuffs and then I should be fine for the Lufenia orb, but that's not how it actually works. So maybe in the middle of the road, nearly to the high level difficulty for me for this one. But yeah, the second and third wave weren't that scary at all. And yeah, I think I will leave it at that, and encourage you guys to like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it does help the channel, and I would really appreciate it, guys, if you do this. These videos do take a lot of time, a lot of my time actually, since I am super busy lately. And share this video as well if you do find it helpful, and you may be a friend of yours may need a little bit of a hand how to, you know, strategize, or basically to learn more about the fight itself. Would really appreciate it. You can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter at Munchkins Gaming. Leave down in the comments below your complete team for this boss rush. Let me know down there and what strategies you use. This is Munchkins logging off. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next level.